Now it's time for our final run-through of the newspapers with broadcaster and writer Edward Adu and sociologist Ashley Frawley. So welcome back to both of you for this final run-through. And Ashley, we are starting with your selection this hour. Inside the Telegraph, there's a story here. The headline is Labour's failure to, in inverted commas, crush anti-Semitism may cost £5 million, they say.
Yeah, so Labour has spent £5 million in a legal battle after 9 whistleblowers made complaints of anti-Semitism in the party. Now the Telegraph is reporting that charities, peers and MPs have raised concerns not only about this spending, but also that the spectre of anti-Semitism is continuing to linger in mainstream politics. Now, obviously, there's a lot of political point scoring when it comes to anti-Semitism claims, but the Equality and Human Rights Commission concluded in October 2020 that there was an issue that Labour was responsible for unlawful acts of harassment and discrimination against Jewish people. Now, if you look at the content of some of these allegations, I mean, you can't help but be reminded of the socialism of fools. There was a real lack of systemic thinking that led a lot of people to fall back on blaming individuals and groups that made them vulnerable to claims of anti-Semitism. And I'm afraid this continues to be popular in things like blaming white people for a huge range of issues, which has been creeping into mainstream politics. And I think as long as we continue to scapegoat individuals and groups for social problems, we are, the specter of anti-Semitism is going to continue to haunt politics.
Okay, and I think the risk is that the Labour Party could spend up to $5 million. I think it is if they lose the allegations, isn't it? That's
and they're already 4.8. They've already 4.8 billion in deficit. So it's a huge amount of spending for a party that wants to come into power.
Yeah, issues over their finances there. Okay, let's move on, shall we, Edward? There's a story this is on the front page of the FT, isn't it? This is about Qatar rethinking some of its investments in London after a ban on adverts for Qatar.
Yeah, Anna, I mean, this is an interesting story. And I mean, this is a ban which originally in 2019, the Mayor, Sadiq Khan, London Mayor, asked TfL, Transport for London, to review how it treats advertising and sponsorship from countries which are anti-LGBTQ. And this is concerning Qatar. So in response to this, they've launched a review on how they invest in London. And it's striking to think in terms of how much sort of Qatari money is sort of involved or ploughed in London. For example, Harrods, the department store, the investment authority, they own Harrods, Canary Wharf, and Chelsea Barracks. So I think what Sadiq Khan has done, it's a very many will say, it's a bold move because at the end of the day he's the London mayor, and these are countries which they have their own laws in place. But these are laws which are discriminatory, and if they obviously want to influence what they do or have brand value or whatever their involvement in London culture, then I suppose they have to kind of, adhere to what Londoners do. And London, as being a Londoner, it's an inclusive capital city. It reaches out to all communities. And by having a country which doesn't necessarily follows those rules regarding LGBTQ and the culture, they have to question that and say, well, look, with the armband issue as well, there's so many factors concerning this. And I overheard a conversation on the tube the other day where someone asked, are you going to be watching the World Cup? And the guy said no. He said, look, the people who built those stadiums were paid £1 an hour. And he said, thousands of people died. And obviously we can't quote that. But that's what people are thinking. And when it's connected to advertising, saying, well, look, this is what we do as Qatar, I'm sure that's why it's being questioned by TfL and by the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan.
It's really interesting. I noticed you there, Ashley, shaking your head. Did you want to come in on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, you have to wonder who they're really talking to. Like they're saying, "Oh, we want to send a message to Qatar." Okay, fair enough, but they're fine. They're fine with taking Qatar money and Saudi Arabian money, and all of this money that from countries that don't share our values. And suddenly, when they have a chance to make a visible statement, they're all about it, right? And I wondered that they're making a statement to Qatar because in other instances they're just fine with working with them,
But actually,
or they're making a statement to us.
Actually, in 2019, I mean, as I mentioned, Sadiq, he asked TfL to review how it treats its advertising. So this is not just a recent thing. I mean, this is connected.
No, I'm not talking about
Brunei.
TfL. I'm talking about the City of London generally. I'm talking about the UK. I'm talking about businesses working with Qatar generally. They're just fine with that until it's visible in terms of advertising.
Yeah.
Then would they want to take a stand?
Do you
Very
think
quickly,
that there should be a body then? So yeah, sure. So do you think that this should be extended so businesses should adopt what TfL done?
I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to. I think when there's money at stake, it doesn't matter about virtue.
Okay.
And that's why I said I wonder who they're really talking to, because I think they're really talking to us.
Yeah, so it's such an interesting debate, isn't it? And I would like to carry it on, but we'll go through a few more papers. And I should say it's not just Qatar, is it, that's facing the suspension of new adverts. It's 11 countries in total, I think. And it's
11,
really thrown up a lot of issues about to what extent we engage with countries whose values we don't agree with. Anyway, but we will move on. Ashley, your next choice was Inside the Guardian. This is about Amazon.
Yes, so Amazon warehouse workers in the UK and 40 countries staged strikes and protests timed to coincide with Black Friday sales yesterday. This has happened across Japan, Australia, India, the US, Europe, and they're all demanding better wages and conditions. And the campaign is called Make Amazon Pay. I mean, Amazon warehouses are really the mills of the 21st century. Although they are highly mechanized, the work is extremely demanding, extremely fast-paced, and there's little time to sort of think. You are just an appendage of the machines. And then the threat is, of course, that if you demand too much, then you will simply be replaced by more machinery. And I just say, good. Why should Amazon workers accept poor pay and poor conditions, essentially subsidizing technological backwardness by accepting these bad conditions? They're fighting for their dignity. They're fighting for our progress more generally, and they've picked a time to hit Amazon when it's really going to hurt.
Yeah, and as you would imagine, Amazon in the various countries are putting out statements saying that they treat people well, basically, great pay, benefits, and development opportunities.
My husband used to work at Amazon. My husband used to work at Amazon, and he's got tinnitus for the rest of his life from working there. Yeah, it's not a nice place to work.
Yeah.
And power to the workers for fighting for their rights.
Okay, and sympathy to your husband. I don't know what Amazon says about that. I have to be obviously careful of putting forward their point of view as well.
He thinks that he has tinnitus from Amazon, but it just coincides with him working there.
Okay, let's move on to the Mirror, shall we, to wrap up. And this is Leonardo DiCaprio praising a zoo. Very briefly, Edward.
Yeah, no, so this is about a rare fish, which for Mexico, which Leonardo DiCaprio's got involved, and basically bringing a rare fish back. And he shared it on his on his Twitter, I think it was on one of his social media pages. It reached up to nearly 300,000, and he's received praise from Cheshire Zoo, who thanked him for highlighting it. And it's a great thing for some of his stature to kind of just raise the awareness about that rare fish.
Indeed. And on the note of the fish, we were going to leave it. But Edward and Ashley, thanks very much indeed.
Have a great weekend, Anna.